What is going on here? Pokémon Type Wild, a Japanese fan-created game released sometime in the late 2000s. This game was all the rage back then, and you can probably see why. Using the same name as the Japanese intro song for the Pokémon anime and developed by Poke-Show, supposedly with former animators of the anime. Though that detail is a little spotty, Pokémon Type Wild is a 2D fighting game that pits fan-favorite Pokémon against each other. It would continue to receive updates until one day it just didn't. There really was no word whether this was due to the Pokemon Company or Nintendo sending a hefty cease and desist letter, or if it was just due to loss of interest. The point is that this fan game is a relic of its time, but boy does it really hold up. The claim about former animators working on this game is very believable because the animation and sprite work far exceeds what we had seen in other fan games of the time. And yeah, going through the sprite files, you can see just how much work was put into each and every single Pokemon. There is also a lot of fan service in this game, and not just the usual type of negatively viewed fan service, I mean fan service. Like with each stage these Pokemon can fight in, there are just so many little nods and references to not only the characters we see, but the locations themselves. Most interesting is the outskirt stand from Pokemon Coliseum. To top it all off, Wes, Rui, Umbreon, and Espeon are even there watching the battle. There are also locations from the anime with corresponding characters, and even locations from spin-off games like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon and Pokemon Battle Evolution. And of course there are scenes from the actual main series video games. Having all of these together is honestly kind of a fun idea. Mixing the canons around like this works when they're meant to be purely enjoyed, and it isn't something we would see in an official Pokemon game. Heck, even other fan games don't really tend to do this. Oh, and of course there is a lot of the other kind of fan service, like how Gardevoir has 4 different human outfits she can change into during the victory animation. And like, it's not just outfits like the nice dress and the cute maid, but also the kinky nurse and the wedding dress, oh gosh, you know, for marriage? Gardevoir was obviously the favorite of the developer, and I wouldn't doubt that it was the sole reason for creating Type Wild. On the fan service side, this game is pretty sus, but if I'm being honest, that's just par for the course when it comes to anime fighting games. Other characters included Gengar, Snorlax, Combusken, Blaziken, Breloom, Swalot, Lopunny, and Lucario. I think this was a pretty good roster and includes more well-known Pokemon that you would expect for a fighting game. But I do really like how Snorlax is included as the big man, and Breloom finally gets to hang out with the other fighting types using its stretchy arms. Swalot is the really weird character here, which is great. Not sticking to traditional body types or even fighting styles is what makes a Pokemon fighting game so interesting, like how I always love seeing characters like Chandelure and Suicune chosen for Pokken Tournament. Being Pokemon's official fighting game, it obviously includes some crossover. Blaziken, Lucario, Gardevoir, and surprisingly Gengar are all playable in Pokken, though I think it would have been a neat coincidence if Snorlax, Breloom, Lopunny, and Swalot all made their way to Pokken as well. Maybe for the sequel, please, I need Lopunny. Though when it comes to the intricacies and mechanics of these games, I can't really judge the two. I've actually never played Type Wild, and nothing is really pushing me to play it in the current year, and I enjoyed Pokken very casually. So I don't really know a whole lot about fighting games, but they are different styles, which I think is cool, and they're both able to coexist even though one isn't even official. I remember there being so much talk about this fan game back then. During the era of Generation 6, Pokemon had really taken off here on YouTube and online fan communities in general, coming off of Pokemon Black and White and going into the first 3D games of a brand new console with Pokemon X and Y. So it was the perfect time for a little resurgence of this game as people began posting videos of it, and really longing for something similar to be officially created by Pokemon. As spin-off games weren't huge during the 3DS era, fan games like this were really able to capture people's imaginations. If anything, it kind of prepped everybody for the actual release of an official Pokemon fighting game to have a decent debut. Though with that game also kind of being left alone for so long, we're really gonna need something new. Pokemon Type Wild hasn't been updated in years, and I'm sure it's still a pretty fun time, but just for someone like me who doesn't personally play fan games myself, but instead watches other people play them, I've got my fill. It's still a great showcase of what people inspired by Pokemon are able to do on their own time with their own resources. Basically the peak Pokemon fan game. So let me know what you think of Pokemon Type Wild. Have you ever played it, and would you like to see anything like it in the future? Anyway, I've got to finish editing this video so I can delete all of those Gardevoir pictures. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, especially the great Gators, Brandon Mork, Cheeseburger Lasers, Green Topaz 213, Justin R, Cosmo Zero, Meme Supreme, Michaela, Mochizuki Yoru, Nomad Nobi, Quago, Taijirai, Volity, and Pastel Blood. If you would like to support, get your name shouted out here as well as access to emotes for comments, live streams, and sometimes early videos, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well for more memes. Anyway, this has been GatorX, I'll catch you all later.
ダークミュウツーも参戦。アイアンテールがボーンラッシュがブレイズキックが決まる。 君の手で繰り出せ EU ポッケン